How's it going, people? Bobby here. You might know me online as Ironhammer5, and today I've got the Hastur RDA by CthulhuMods. This is just a first impressions, not a full review. I will be following up with a full review in a couple of weeks' time, probably when I've had much more time to play with it, mess around with it, try some different things with it, and give you a full verdict. Here's my first impressions, though. Let's take a look. So here's the box that comes in, guys. Pretty similar to the box that Cthulhu comes in. In fact, it's very much the same. It's just a slightly different size. Nice little plastic box. You get some O-rings and an Allen key. We'll come back to the Allen key in a moment. You get a 510 drip tip adapter, and oh my god, there's no RDA. That's because it's here. So here is the Hastur RDA, and you can see Hastur written on the front there. On the bottom it has a long copper pin, which is more than protruding enough to use on a hybrid mod. You have a serial number 0184, and then you have a chunky drip tip on top, which can be replaced for the wide bore drip, for the 510 drip tip adapter, which just pops in like so, and then you can add a 510 drip tip. The wide bore drip tip has kind of like a rifling inside. It's kind of hard to see it on the camera because it's inside there and it's all black. You can kind of catch a glimpse of it. Towards the top it has this kind of like spiral rifling in there to create a vortex, I assume. I'll come back to that in a minute too. Then you have the top cap part with the airflow from the top. Of course, this being a top airflow RDA, supposedly to minimize leakage. The top part comes off, and instead of like a rogue or something where the airflow goes straight on top of the coils from the top there, this has this kind of second like barrel section inside where it kind of angles the airflow down and then onto the coils. So you can see obviously the airflow comes in the top there, and then it gets redirected down to where your coils. You can see your coil in there. I haven't taken the wicking out of this build. Bear in mind I've had this for about 12 hours so far, so this is not a full review. There's a horrible looking dry wick in there, but it'll be alright once I get some juice on there. You've got a 4-post design with Grub Screws. This is where we start going downhill a little bit, guys, because the Grub Screws kind of suck. They're pretty much, I've almost rounded them off with one build in it. I've only built in it once so far, because the screwdriver, if I could get it out, the Allen key thingy doesn't really fit properly, right? If I put it in there, it like just starts to kind of, well, now it's got stuck. But earlier, yeah, like this one, it's just twisting in the hole there. That's just going to get rounded off. Luckily, I've got another Allen key that fits better. But yeah, it's a real shame. They had this problem with the Cthulhu RTA where a lot of people, I didn't have it with mine, but a lot of people had trouble with the Allen key fitting in the Grub Screws and rounding off Grub Screws. And I'm sorry to say, guys, I've got a case of that with their first RDA here. So that's the very first downside, like, and the fact that they've done it twice in a row now is a real shame. But carrying on anyway, I'll come back to that when I give you my final thoughts on it, and I'll speak to that in a bit more detail. Then you have an O-ring for the base where this section goes onto. You line it up with your coils. You've got single or dual coil airflow options on there. And then you just put your top cap on, and then your drip tip, and you're good to vape. So yeah, it's not a real deep drip well in there. It's deep enough. It's quite a restrictive build, to be honest, and to line your coils up you do need to build them kind of up a little bit from the deck and from the post holes. So I kind of, you can see it's raised a little bit higher than the post holes. I kind of pulled it up a little bit afterwards. But yeah, apart from that, it's a really standard build, nothing particular to see. Build quality is okay, everything seems to fit together alright, but you can see this part is loose, which causes a few problems, which I'll talk about again in a moment. And this part here, this part fits really nicely, but there's also a problem with this part too, because what seems to happen is once you vape, this part here, you can see where it's all wet from where I've been vaping it earlier still, even though I've wiped it. Juice and condensation builds up all the way around the outside here, all the way around this barrel, everywhere. It just gets in there because of these grooves and these holes, right? And then if you take your top cap off to drip, as soon as you put this back on there, it pushes all the juice down the sides and it comes out all around the bottom in this little tiny gap here, and it's just juice for days coming out of there. So you've got top airflow design on there to try and minimize leaking, and it just all comes out here, and you can see that part is kind of wobbling. It doesn't really sit on there very tight. I haven't tried changing the O-rings or anything like that yet. Like I said, I've had it for 12 hours. there will be a full review in the future. But like, that's pretty much just falling off there. Like, this doesn't fit nice. The O-ring seems like it needs to be a bit thicker, and I think that leads to even more juice leaking through that gap. It's not very like tight to keep the juice in there, like. And so you've got top airflow to stop leaks coming out of the airflow holes, and it just all comes out of the fucking bottom anyway. So yeah, I'll talk about that a little bit more, but there it is up and close. Nothing more for you to see here really. It looks okay. The engraving on the front is pretty crappy too. Like, it's a shame because if you look on the Cthulhu, which I do have handy here, this is probably going to be a bit juicy too. But the engraving on this one is really nice. It's really clean engraving, and the engraving on this one is like grey and not very dark, and just looks a bit like kind of blurry. It doesn't look very great. So yeah, the engraving's not too great either. I wish that was on the bottom. I wish it was just plain around the sides and it didn't have that on the sides. I wish they just put the name on the bottom or something, right? It would look much cleaner like that, I think, especially when the engraving's not too great. So yeah, as you might be able to tell so far, I'm not overly impressed, to be honest. I've got the Cthulhu here. I vape it all day, every day. But for their first RTA, we'll talk about it a little bit more, shall we? So I've juiced it up, and here it is on top of my Sigeli 100 watt plus. It looks nice, right? It's nice and clean. It's really, really small. I was hoping that this was going to be the one to take out and about, like how the Cthulhu's been the only tank for me. Like, I thought this was going to be the one RDA with the kind of top airflow and stuff. I've tried a few top airflow designs now, and I really like the idea of it. And when I saw the pictures of this, I was like, that's cool. It redirects it right down to the coils, so you should still get nice airflow straight onto the coils and stuff like that. Which you do. I mean, it's a really restrictive draw. Despite the size of those air holes on the top, it seems really tight draw. They look bigger than what they are. They're kind of deceiving. It's a very tight draw. But you can get some really nice flavour from it. It's definitely above average in the flavour department. You can get some nice flavour. You are really close down to them coils. You do have a tight airflow. I'm not so sure about this top drip tip with the rifling inside it. Like, it seems like it just collects condensation in those grooves, and then when you come back to it, you just get loads of juice in your mouth. Then there's the whole, like, you won't be able to see it now, but there's juice on there already just from me vaping it a little bit, and as soon as I put that on there, it just starts coming out the bottom. I'll put a picture up to show you what it kind of looks like. It was hard to get a picture of it, but you can see how it was. There was juice coming out everywhere. Like, I was getting more juice coming out of the bottom of this than what I was with the Mutation XV4 with the airflow holes open at the bottom, where it was literally just coming out of the airflow holes. Well, this comes out all the way around in a whole circle, all the way around everywhere. I don't know if it's just the condensation being pushed down when I push that back down, like it squeezes it all out the bottom, or whether it's coming through that gap where that second section there is quite loose on there. I'm not sure yet. Like, I haven't had it for long enough to really put a final verdict on it. But the Grub Screws, CthulhuMods, what's going on with the Grub Screws? The RTA had troubles with the Grub Screws. Loads of people complaining. Mine was fine, I didn't have any issues. Loads of people complaining about the hex keys being the wrong size or something, and the Grub Screws like rounding off and not being very good quality. And you said you'd fixed it in the RTA, and now you've made an RDA and you've done the same thing again. I don't understand. You should have sorted that out by now. Maybe they'll sort it out in future versions. So to talk about that one particular thing a little bit more, I did message the guys at Vapor Depot because I know they had these in stock. This one came direct from CthulhuMods. They sent it to me free to review, and obviously a full review will come up once I've been using it for much longer. But I wanted to get it out there and show it to you guys. But yeah, I spoke to Vapor Depot about it, and I'm doing the really fast talking thing again, aren't I? But they said they'd opened two up, one each, because there's two guys there, Johnny and Tony. They said they'd opened one up each to use themselves, and Tony said his was fine and it was absolutely great, and Johnny said, I might have got it the wrong way around, but Johnny said that his was the same and it was rounded off. They've ordered a bunch of the hex keys in. It's a 1.5mm hex key that you actually need if you haven't got one that fits. So if you do end up with one of these with dodgy screws or a dodgy hex key, you need to buy a 1.5mm hex key to use with it. And if you want to buy some better quality screws, It was 3M screws, 3M Grub Screws, or maybe M3 Grub Screws. I'll put it at the bottom here. And it was M3 Grub Screws that are 4mm long, and you need a 1.5mm hex key to do it. So if you did want to buy new stainless steel screws for it, they're the ones to get. To be honest, the flavor's okay. It is above average, but this is a build that I make on all my RDAs. It's kind of like my standard go-to simple build when I don't want to mess around. It's 7 wraps of 24 gauge on a 2.5mm, and it comes out at 0.3 ohms, and I normally vape it at like 55 watts, something like that. But if I put this up to 55 watts on here, it's way too hot. The vape is just way too hot. And the other thing is, I don't know if probably everybody doesn't do this, but I've noticed just from this that when I take a vape, at the end of my inhale, I seem to exhale back into the RDA for some reason, and I get really hot vape coming back out of those top airflow holes and hitting me on the face. So that's another thing that I've noticed. If you have it really hot, the vape gets way too hot. So I've had to turn this right down to like 38 watts, and the vape's just like a bit wispy. Like I'm not really getting that nice dense vape. I'm going to mess around with some more builds in it. I'm going to put like some 26 gauge in it, maybe see if I can get like a more dense vape from it, because it won't be quite so hot as the 24 gauge hopefully. I don't know, I'm going to have to mess around with it a bit more. But it's supposed to be leak proof because of the top airflow, and then juice comes all out all around the sides. I don't like the rifling in the wide drip tip. I wish it was just a normal wide bore drip tip. The Grub Screws is, especially once, like, you need to learn from your mistakes. Like when it was their very first product, the RTA that they made, the Cthulhu RTA, and you can kind of let them off. Like it was your very first product, you ended up with some shitty screws in your tank, like fair dues. And they, to be fair, they did well to try and sort it out for people. I think sending people new screws out and stuff. They offered to send me new parts if I needed any when I had a problem with mine. Which was my own problem. It was me being a dummy. There wasn't even a problem with it. Mine's been absolutely fine. So with this, they should have fixed it. It's just not really acceptable that they've done the same thing again. And with somebody else confirming that they've had one, I know Vape Depot have sold a bunch of them, and they said they haven't had any back. They've had one that had a stripped post screw that they found, but obviously odd manufacturing problems can occur. But I'm guessing that there's going to be a few more people out there. Probably the majority of them are absolutely fine. There's going to be a few more people out there that run into these dodgy screws and dodgy hex keys and have troubles with their build. Like when I first got this and I tried to tighten it with that Allen key, I thought I just wasn't going to be able to use it at all. I couldn't tighten it down. Luckily I found an Allen key that fit. But if I didn't have that, I would have just had an RDA that didn't work. Obviously, luckily I didn't buy it, so it wouldn't have been that much of a problem for me. But if you've gone out and bought one and then the Allen key doesn't fit and you can't even build on it and you don't have another Allen key, like, that's going to be really fucking annoying, right? So yeah, I don't know, it gets juicier than I would have liked. When you do vape it, the vape's not my kind of vape. There's going to be some people out there that prefer probably a cooler vape, I would say. But it's not a very nice vape for me personally. I'd prefer bigger airflow holes so that I could crank up the wattage a little bit more without it getting so hot. Don't really know what else to say, guys. It's a shame. From the pictures and stuff I'd seen at the beginning when it was first announced, I thought this was going to be pretty awesome. It looked really cool. I've been really happy with their tank. To this day, I still vape this Cthulhu tank every single day. It's always sat here. It lives on top of my Cool Fire 4 now, and I just use it every single day. It's like my little out and about setup. If I'm going out for an hour or two, don't need too much battery life, I just grab this and take it with me, and it's just simple. I use it all the time. I love it, and I love what CthulhuMods are doing, trying to make new things at a really good price. Like I think it's £18 for this RDA, and it was kind of they're not just making a normal old RDA. They tried to do the top airflow thing, but they kind of got it wrong in my opinion. If they sort out those tolerances so that this top part here isn't all wobbly, like it shouldn't be wobbling around. You can see the gap opening up where it's wobbling around, and nothing fits tight. Like everything's a little bit loose, even the top part, and then juice starts coming out around the sides. So I think I'll leave it there, guys. Thanks for watching the video. I wanted to get this out there, first impressions, because I know there's not many videos out there of this RDA yet. So I hope you enjoyed it. I'm sorry that I didn't really enjoy the RDA. I will come back in a couple of weeks with a full review. Maybe I'll try some new O-rings on it and it'll be absolutely fine. Maybe when I get some new screws for it, that will make it better. I shouldn't have to buy new screws for it, right? That shouldn't be the case. But sometimes you have to bodge stuff. But to me, I'm kind of just a bit disappointed. It feels like a clone or something. Like, it feels like it's not quite right, you know? Like, it's just a shame. CthulhuMods, just try and sort those screws out in the next run or something. Try and sort out the issues. If you can get that thing straighter in the next run or something, in the next manufacturing run, that will help a whole lot if it fits tighter on that second part there. And then the top cat's not so bad. Sorry guys. It's just not for me. It's not. I thought it was going to be, but it's not. I don't really know what else to say. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Like it if you liked the video. If you didn't like it, press the thumbs down. I really don't care. And don't forget to subscribe if you want to catch future videos, including my full review of this in a couple of weeks' time. Vapingoutloud.com, you can find my podcast that I do with Rob the Vapor over there. And I'm Ironhammer 5 everywhere. Just search for Ironhammer 5, you'll find me. You might find some old shit that I did before vaping stuff too. That could be interesting. Probably not. Don't do it. So yeah, thanks for watching guys. I'll see you soon. Take care. And bye bye.